Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Dasniyata. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Former Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara questioned by the CID on the central bank bond. AG's department informs court that seeking bail on behalf of Aloysius and Palisena from the Court of Appeal is not a legitimate recourse. Presidential Commission of Inquiry says Mihin Lanka Board of Directors was appointed without authority. Rural economy at risk due to microfinancing organizations and short-sighted loan structures. Historic meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un scheduled for tomorrow.
Former Minister MP Dayasiri Jayasekara left the Criminal Investigations Department earlier this afternoon after providing a statement for close to 5 hours.
MP Dayasiri Jayasekara arrived at the Criminal Investigations Department around 10 this morning and left around 3:30 p.m. after recording a statement. When inquired by Newsfirst, MP Jayasekara said the statement was recorded from him for allegedly accepting a sum of 1 million rupees from Walt and Rowe Associates Private Limited, a subsidiary of Perpetual Treasuries Limited. The parliamentarian said he was not summoned to appear before the CID again.
Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagoda, addressing the Court of Appeal, informed court today that seeking bail on behalf of Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena is not a legitimate entitlement.
Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagoda pointed out the revision bail application is made to revise the orders given by the former Magistrate Court and the Colombo High Court rejecting bail. He noted the objective of this application is to revise an order given by a lower court and not seek bail. Therefore, he noted the Court of Appeal has no power to issue an order by considering a revision bail application. The Additional Solicitor General went on to say the Court of Appeal has the legitimate power to consider an application if it is made to seek bail on behalf of suspects. Court of Appeal President P. Patman Surasena and Justice Shiran Gunaratna decided to further examine the application made on behalf of Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena again on the 4th of July. President's counsel Gamini Marapana, appearing on behalf of remanded suspect Arjun Aloysius, said the Attorney General's Department had made statements during the examination of the revision application on Arjun Aloysius and the other suspects for the media, and this remark was criticized by the Additional Solicitor General in open court. Yasantha Kodagoda said Gamini Marapana, being a senior President's counsel, making such a comment is not a suitable act to have been committed when particularly considering his seniority. Shocking revelations were made at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering and Mihin Lanka Private Limited. Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan, who is following the proceedings of the Commission, filed this report.
According to the documents provided to the Department of Registrar of Companies for Mihin Lanka Private Limited, the first board of directors should have been appointed by the Government of Sri Lanka and when required by the Minister of Aviation. The documents also note that the board of directors should not be less than 5 and not more than 7, yet there were only 4 individuals in the first board of directors. However, the Commission today observed the government of Sri Lanka had not given any authority to appoint the first board of directors to Mihin Lanka Private Limited. It also noted Mihin Lanka Private Limited had not complied with the minimum requirement for the board of directors. In addition, Mihin Lanka Private Limited had delayed in submitting their annual returns. Usually, a company is fined for the delay. However, there was no documentation to claim they were even fined at the time. The investment director at the Board of Investments said the application for the launch of Mihin Lanka was made by then coordinating secretary to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, Sergeant Divas Gunawardena. He said in the draft Articles of Association, the airline is named Air Sri Lanka Private Limited. However, documents later submitted to them bear the name Mihin Lanka Private Limited. In a more surprising event, the application was submitted on the 12th of October 2006 and approval was granted the very next day as it was considered a government top priority project. It came to light Mihin Lanka Private Limited had breached certain agreements with the BOI for concessions and enjoyed these concessions until 2012, when the budget removed all duty on Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering and Mihin Lanka Private Limited. Mihin Lanka Private Limited had enjoyed duty-free to import alcohol, chains and even perfumes, in addition to importing ground handling equipment.
A 25-year-old youth from Mawade Wembu, Batiklo, committed suicide yesterday. It has been revealed the victim took his life as he could no longer pay off a loan he had taken.
The victim has been identified as Mogaraza Yogaraza, a resident of Mawade Wembu, Batiklo, whose livelihood depended on a cement block manufacturing business. His wife claims he had taken loans from several companies.
He took a loan of 70,000 rupees from Munich, 100,000 rupees from the RDB, 60,000 rupees from Vardina and another 50,000 from the Asia Bank. He took these loans to manufacture blocks. This caused us a loss.
Today, many small-scale entrepreneurs in the country have resorted to irregular methods like obtaining money on interest to fulfill their financial requirements. Newsfirst inquired as to why the situation has been created.
We are self-employed. When we try to get a loan, they request for a state guarantor or legal documents of your property and wealth. From where do we get those? So we are forced to get loans from people on high interest.
We have to ply our trade, so we have to take loans every day. We don't like doing it because it makes us debtors. It is not their mistake either. They are only giving us because we ask for it. I am 37 years old and I have tried to get a loan from the bank a couple of times. They weren't big loans either. They were small amounts ranging from 100,000 to 300,000 rupees. But I have never taken a bank loan. We get it done through a finance company or something like that. If we take 10,000, we have to pay back 12,000 for 2 months. When plying a trade by obtaining loans at such high interest rates, the trader has to make a profit percentage higher than the interest rate to cover the loan. As this process is not practical, those who obtain loans without a proper knowledge fall into a debt trap, unable to pay off the loan. In 2017, 195 people in Sri Lanka committed suicide due to the debt burden in the country. I will show you how unfair this loan scheme is. There is something called the Rural Micro Loan Scheme today. It gives you a loan of 100,000 rupees, which has to be paid back as a 50-month installment of 2,500 rupees each. The ordinary rural communities think to themselves, since they got this 100,000 in one go, they could grow cultivation by paying 2,500 a month, which could be earned through a day labor job. At plain sight, it looks like a relief program. But what is the reality? The interest rate is 47.47%. At rural level, the rate is 61%. Urban level is 49%. So it's not just the country, but its people have also become prisoners of this debt trap. This situation created by microfinance companies is disastrous. Recently, 2 women from Jaffna had committed suicide because they were unable to pay off their loans. Most young women, when they can't pay off their loans, officials and representatives of companies solicit sexual bribes from these women. We have to find immediate and long-term solutions together with the central bank officials for this issue. On the 22nd of this month, we hope to announce a special relief for the women who fell victim to these microfinance companies. The government will bear the interest of those who have taken loans of more than 150,000 rupees. We heard a program called Enterprise Sri Lanka in the previous budget. It says the loan will be given without any guarantee. There is a certain value to this, but we are still waiting for such a loan. Before this, a budget document contained gold loans and loan schemes for those in the agriculture sector without any guarantee. But none of them were implemented because they are caught in legal issues. Though we talk a lot about these loan procedures, there isn't proper awareness. It's been 6 months since the government issued the budget. Though the budget was themed Enterprise Sri Lanka, there has been no materialistic effort to implement this on the part of the government. So the businessmen do not have a clear understanding and the required details of the loan schemes in the country. The third point is small-scale entrepreneurs want to know the guarantee they have when they go to a state or private bank. The government has to create a separate reserve as a guarantee for small-scale businessmen. This is mentioned in the budget document, but we haven't seen its implementation.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has granted approval for the new power generation expansion plan as per the National Energy Policy. The PUCSL has informed the CEB to prioritise the construction of 1,400 megawatt liquefied natural gas or LNG plants as approved by the Cabinet recently. The PUCSL has pointed out the Cabinet decision that made it clear the construction of 3 power plants should be implemented as a government-to-government venture.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka this evening announced its policy decision to the Ceylon Electricity Board, bringing an end to the crisis over the long-term power generation expansion plan from 2018 to 2037. A cabinet paper changing the power generation expansion plan approved by the PUCSL was presented to Cabinet, and it was once again amended to prioritise the construction of liquefied natural gas or LNG plants. Therefore, priority needs to be given for the construction of 3 1,400 megawatt liquefied natural gas or LNG plants as per the agreements reached by the government of Sri Lanka with China, India and Japan. According to the new power generation expansion plan, the proposed 300 megawatt LNG plant in Kerawalapitia should be completed by 2019 and should be added to the national grid. As per the new energy policy come 2030, 50% of the country's energy requirement should be met by renewable energy and hydroelectricity. Of the remaining 50%, 20% should be met by coal, another 20% by LNG plants and the remaining 10% by thermal power plants. The people would undoubtedly praise the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka for working towards approving a power generation plan that benefits the entire population of the country. The Postal Trade Union Alliance says it launched a continuous strike action at 4 p.m. today in protest against the recruitment process.
Its convener Chintaka Bandara said postal workers from across the country are taking part in the strike action. He added the strike action will affect postal delivery and transportation among many other functions.
We have to amend the problematic process of recruitment and obtain approval for a more suitable system that will protect the rights of the employees. There is a large number of officials who have not been made permanent, but yet they function as acting officials. If steps are being taken to conduct interviews for them and make their employment permanent, some employees might lose their jobs based on the current recruitment system in the country. So we oppose these interviews. We will continue the strike action until a permanent solution is provided by the government.
When contacted by Newsfirst, Postmaster General Rohana Abeyaratne said a cabinet paper containing solutions for the workers' issues has been submitted to the Cabinet of Ministers. Abeyaratne added during talks held with trade unions on the 1st of this month, they were told a decision would be made regarding the cabinet paper within 2 weeks. The Postmaster General said the trade unions had begun their trade union action before that. Thereby, leave of all postal workers were cancelled. Postmaster General Rohana Abeyaratne said to curb the potential disruptions during the course of the strike action, instructions have been issued to all officials, including to Deputy Postmaster Generals.
A number of fish markets across the country were not open for business today as well. This was in support of the main demand made by fishermen, which is to provide kerosene at the previous price.
Fishermen in Mutwal and surrounding areas refrained from setting out to sea since Saturday. The Mutwal fish market was deserted today as well as there was no catch for sale. The fishermen in Mutwal today staged a protest march this morning, highlighting their demand. The march commenced from the Mutwal-Dilasal junction. The protesters reached the dockline junction and then proceeded to the beach. We don't care about price reductions. Give us fuel at the previous price. Our boats are not like the cars and vans that travel on the streets. We can only travel for a few miles on a litre of fuel. Imagine the fuel we must use for our trade. We need to have at least 50 to 60 litres per trip. This is a great injustice caused to us. We seek a concession from the authorities. The small-scale fishermen in Chilao also staged a protest march demanding a fuel price reduction. The march commenced from opposite the St. Sebastian's Church in Negombo and proceeded towards the Telwata junction via the Colombo-Chilao main road. They obstructed the Colombo-Chilao main road from the Telwata junction. Before increasing the price, the government should understand it is the poor in the country who use kerosene. The Negombo fish market was also closed today. Convening a media briefing in Colombo today, the JVP made clarifications regarding certain accusations concerning one of its parliamentarians.
Instead of catching the rogues, To protect them, they are creating misconceptions and false allegations against the MPs who are doing something to capture the thieves. There are also rumours flying around that several of their sons-in-law also took money. So are their names mentioned here as well? The people have a right to know this. Recently, Maitri Gunaratne said in Galle that our fellow MP Nalinda Jayatissa had also accepted money from perpetual treasuries through a journalist called Mahesh Senanayaka. This is utter lies. He claims that there was a trade union conflict of the JVP at a distillery of the WM Mendis in Beruwala. To cover up this conflict, Nalinda Jayatissa accepted money through Mahesh Senanayaka. Prove this if you can. Though this is Maitri Gunaratne's voice, it is no secret to us who is behind it. The person behind this is the reason for the number of pages in the report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to reduce before it came to the Parliament and cope. Around 4 months ago, the President spoke about his sword. We would like to ask the President how many people have got caught to this sword in the past 4 months. So we know the masterminds behind Maitri Gunaratne's exercise. We sent a letter of demand to Maitri Gunaratne demanding 500 million rupees as compensation for defamation. Maitri Gunaratne is a lawyer. We urge him not to hurl stones while seated in glass houses. When he was chairman of the Lanka Coal Company, we told him not to travel in choppers and travel in a normal vehicle without wasting public funds. So I suppose there must be some rift because of that. In a defamation case, any question can be asked. So we'll meet at the hearing. We will ask those questions from Maitri Gunaratne during cross-questioning.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana convened a media briefing today.
Newly appointed General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Professor Rohana Lakshman Vijayadasa, has made a clear statement. President Maithripala Sirisena will definitely be nominated as the candidate for the next presidential election that is scheduled to take place towards the end of next year. Former General Secretary and Present National Organizer of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Dumina Disanayake, says that this is how it will happen and that they will make it so. A broad alliance with the assistance of a number of political parties will be formed and President Maithripala Sirisena will be put forward as the candidate. We clearly state that absolutely no assistance will be extended by us to this. The opposition has succumbed to the government. The leader of the opposition is the leader of the Tamil National Alliance. The organizer of an opposition party that has become obedient to the government is now representing the government for the first time in the country's political history. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party has been reduced to 8 members. This opposition is speaking of the problems.
UPFA MP Dilan Pereira, speaking in Badulla, expressed the following views. The 16 of us believe while President Maithripala Sirisena is the President, Mahinda Rajapaksa must be made the Prime Minister. The media reports say the group of 16 are meeting with Gotabaya Rajapaksa. We are not meeting with him. Our attempt is to make President Maithripala Sirisena agree to appoint Mahinda Rajapaksa as Prime Minister before the presidential election.
Leftist party representatives convened a media briefing today.
We need an alliance. If we proceed under this method, our movement will be like hanging onto the footboard. If there are those who took bribes from Perpetual Treasuries Limited and WM Mendis and Company, the law needs to be enacted. What is the bribery commissioner doing? He is waiting for a complaint to be made. A complaint is required only if one is not aware of something. It is clear the powerful people are making attempts to conceal the scam. Attempts are being made to conceal their involvement with Arjun Aloysius. They are making attempts to protect the politicians who took money. The main suspect, Arjun Mahendran, is still at large. When considering the relationship with the Prime Minister, he can be brought back to the country.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, commenting on the exchange rate, states that the central bank would not tolerate speculation by any party and warned that the central bank is ready to take punitive action if necessary. The governor made this statement addressing an event held in Colombo today.
As I said, we are trying to give a competitive exchange rate. The real effective exchange rate is around 100. Reserves are at 9 billion, and with the Hambantota money that's due sometime this week, and another $1 billion that's coming in on a syndicated loan. Reserves are at historically very, very high levels. So there is no reason for this undue pressure on the exchange rate. And there's no reason why there should be this fall in the amount of money coming into the forex market. And if anybody is speculating, I must tell you that's not something we will tolerate for any length of time. We have a lot of instruments we can use to restrict banks, to restrict importers, to restrict exporters. If you want to know what those measures are, please look at what my former mentor, Mr. A.S. Jawardena, who passed away recently, did in 2001. Just look and see what he did in 2001 when the currency overshot. Look at the powerful instrument we have to restrict the market. We do not want to do it. Let me repeat that. We do not want to do it. It's not good for the market. It's not good for importers. It's not good for exporters. It's not good for the economy. But if people speculate and impose an undue burden on the people of this country, I say that because there's a very high import component in the basic consumption bundle in this country. We are not going to allow people to speculate and impose an undue burden on the people of this country. And we will, if necessary, use all the instruments we have to discipline the market.
Up next is Action TV.
Amongst the many public sector entities, the Sri Lanka Administrative Service is one very popular department with applications to sit for the open exam to join the department, outnumbering the vacancies available by 100-fold. A large number of these applicants are graduates. Thus, it can be inferred that there is much interest among graduates to join the Sri Lanka Administrative Service. It can also be inferred that apart from the prestige factor, the number of benefits that are provided for those in the service also attracts a large number of applicants. In such a backdrop, this memorandum has been submitted to Cabinet by the subject minister, stating there is need to attract graduates to the Sri Lanka Administrative Service. At a time when there is absolutely no requirement to award perks and benefits to attract graduates to the Sri Lanka Administrative Service, the subject minister, through the Cabinet memorandum, proposes a monthly allowance be granted in addition to the other perks and benefits. According to the Cabinet memorandum, this allowance has been recommended by the National Salaries and Cadres Commission. On the recommendations of the National Salaries and Cadres Commission, the subject minister proposes a special grade officer should receive 50,000 rupees per month, while a grade 1 officer is to receive 45,000 rupees as allowance. A grade 2 officer will receive a 35,000 allowance, while a grade 3 officer will receive between 30,000 and 15,000 rupees depending on their seniority. If the Cabinet approves this memorandum, the Treasury will have the responsibility of making available approximately 800 million rupees a year for 2,376 eligible employees within the service. By taking on this burden, the public of the country would have to face further taxation. About a month and a half ago, the Cabinet approved a special allowance of 50,000 rupees for ministry secretaries, which would also be applicable at the time of retirement. If the Cabinet is taking such decisions without recalling what happened in October last year, then it is time for that to be reminded. It should be reminded that increasing allowances does not provide a long-term solution, but only calls for more trouble. More details on Action TV tomorrow.
Voice of the people. News from across the nation, reported by Newsfirst regional correspondents.
Locals who use the road from Weligama to Gangoda say the road hasn't been renovated for nearly 15 years. This is the main road to access the Weligama town from Midigama, Ahangama and Pitidua areas. Not even a three-wheeler nor bicycle can go on this road. After this road was carpeted in 2005, no other renovation work took place.
We cannot travel on this road, so please do something about it. We are helpless. We have no way of taking a patient on this road.
Locals of several villages in the Palagala area in Kakirawa, including Palagala, Galpaya, Dematagollagama, Vatagala and Ulapatayaya villages have been facing a threat of wild elephants for many days. A child cannot even go to school. By day, all the manioc cultivations have been destroyed. I've grown them with the greatest difficulty. The wild elephants spend their day grazing in the Namal Uyana Reserve, the Kalaweva and the Baluweva areas, and at night they encroach villages and destroy crops and cultivations. Plantain, coconut and manioc are among the cultivations destroyed. This is the Poppitia village, whose livelihood primarily depends on agriculture. The lands they own, they have inherited over the generations, but now they are facing a crisis. For generations we have farmed on these lands, but now they've separated for something called the wildlife zone.
The Gammada initiative, a successful example of the changing nature of rural development around the world, will be presented at the prestigious Brown University's Advanced Research Institute.
The Brown University has informed this via an official correspondence. The university's International Advanced Research Institutes, or BIARI, convenes scholars and practitioners from around the world to address pressing global issues through collaboration across academic, professional and geographic boundaries. BIARI 2018 offers 3 parallel tracks, each convened by Brown University professors. Social entrepreneurship is a young field that transforms inequitable conditions, including within the healthcare and humanitarian spheres. Group Director of the Capital Maharaj Organization Limited, Chevan Daniel, addressed the elite American Ivy League University as part of the visiting faculty.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For the News First team, I'm Dasni Athada.
And I'm Shran Silva. Take care and good night.